Dr. Kedar is a friend, he's a scholar. He was in Unit 8200, essentially the NSA, National Security Agency for Israel, 25 years in intelligence in his army service, but a scholar at Bar Ilan University, and just a regular guy that knows what's going on. It's all yours, Dr. Kedar.
But what I think that the dangers which Israel face are actually the same dangers which the whole Western culture or Western civilization is facing. Being part of it, being part of the Western civilization, and I would even say the front bastion of the Western civilization in the Middle East is Israel. And just let me tell you the bottom line. The bottom line is, if Israel collapses, the waves will come to Europe immediately, and the waves will continue across the Atlantic. And the Atlantic is not wide enough to protect America. So, some Americans think that their neighbors are the Canadians in the north, the Mexicans in the south, the sharks in the east, and the dolphins in the west. Am I right? Okay. Geographically, it is correct. But culturally, even America is on the same planet as the rest of the world, not on a different planet. And America is not immune from the immigration of the problems to America. And therefore, the national security of Israel is bound with the national security of America. Because both together, if you want, you can add Europe. Together we stand, and together we fall. Israel is not detached from the West, and whatever will happen to Israel, let's say in the near future, will happen to the other parts of the Western culture in the next phases, and it will be very quick. So this is why I think that you cannot separate Israel's national security from the West's national security or security in general. I don't divide between both, and actually Israel is bound with others. So the question is, what happens with the security of the West? Of the well-being of the West? No, not the well-being, the being of the West. Western cultures, when we all know what happens to birth rates on one side and immigration on the other side. Because societies which do not reproduce themselves are marching very proudly into the museums, because nobody came to the world to remain here forever. At some point, we all will leave. And we leave behind us our offspring. And you know what? Let me show you Israel's national security. This is Israel's national security. My five children. This is the national security. We have already 9 grandchildren. And if they all walk on my path, we'll have altogether 25. Because we have 5. And if every one of them will have 5, we already have 25. Means a couple came to the world, and we leave behind us 25 children, boys and girls alike. And this is a national security. Because without this, there is no nation. So how can there be a national security if there is no nation? And this is where national security starts, in birth rate. Now we have to ask ourselves, okay, what do we do for education? What do we do in order to provide to our children? What do we do in order to educate them to be responsible people? What do you do in order to make sure that they don't fall into alcoholic beverages or into drugs. And I'm talking about education, which is also part of national security. Because without education, you don't have a nation, and without nation, you don't have national security. So all these things are bound to national security. Not only somebody who shoots at you threatens you. Those who come to you and say, hey, we don't have to bring children to the world, freedom of women to get pregnant, yes or no, it's okay, even if they don't, let them do whatever they like. You know, women sleep, and I'm not against women's sleep. My wife is not also against it. She decided on when to become pregnant. It was her sole decision. Okay? It's a matter of education. What is the message which we send to our children about their children? And how much do we help them establish their families? Not living here and there with somebody, but families, which can be a nice and warm nest for more and more children. And this is part of national security. And these five, whom I am proud of, these are our security. Now, in addition to making them, it's the message. What do you send the message? And how do you know what the message I send? Because I see what they do. Because when I see our offsprings, what they do, I know what I told them to do, what I educate them to do. I don't have to say it. Shiri, number one, this one, she is 38 today. She is a mother of 4. She served in artillery battalion in Lebanon. We were in Lebanon. She used to come home full of mud, dragging her long rifle, but with glittering eyes, because she was serving the nation, serving the national security in Lebanon, in the mud of Lebanon. And we were in a very, very deep mud over there. Number 2, Jonathan. He saw his big sister. There are 4 years in between them. And he envied her. So he went to a unit named Egoz. It's an elite combat unit, infantry, and he fought in the 2006 war in Lebanon, again, as a commander of vice commander of a battalion of Golani Brigade, definitely giving a fight through his army service. Number 3, Daniel saw his 2 big brothers, his sister and his brother, and he decided it's not enough. And he volunteered to serve in a unit named Shaldag, which is a Kingfisher by the name, but this is actually a airborne commando unit, belongs to the IDF, one of the 2 most elite units, the Sayeret Matkal and this one. And you can imagine what it means to be airborne commando unit, where they are supposed to fight and what against. You can imagine. And this is what he is until this very day. Today he is studying engineering in the day and serves in this unit in the night. Means sometimes in a year they go in order to be updated and without any fat in their body. The whole thing is a muscle. Number 4, Elisheva. She is too religious. She didn't go to the army. As a girl anyway, she is not going to a combat unit. So she went to serve not far from here in an institution named Keren Or, which takes care of children who are blind, retarded, and crippled. And she was taking care of the girls who couldn't do anything by themselves. And there was a boy who postponed his army service in order to serve as a volunteer for a whole year, taking care of the boys. They got to know each other, and they apparently fell in love. And when they wanted to kiss, they married first. So now they have already 2 children, and in my estimation, they will have some more. And she's 24. Number 5 is Ariel. Now he is it was a few years before, and now he is a soldier. He has asthma, so he cannot serve in a combat unit. So he recruits other people and encourages them to go to fight. And this is the national security. because this is the continuation, and the continuation, apparently they got from me the message that a Jew in Israel has to fight. I did it in the army through my brains in the intelligence. You know, intelligence. We try to be intelligent in the intelligence for 25 years. People are not sure how we made these children, because very seldom I came home, because we worked 24/7. I broke my biologic clock already in the army. I don't know what is day, what is night. We work there constantly without any stop. And this is part of the national security. When you have people who are willing and ready to work non-stop with Americans, because we cooperated with the NSA. Some projects we made together, shoulder to shoulder we worked. And this is the history of me in the army, which I can speak about, not much more than this. So this is what the message was they got. And after I got released from the army in 1995, I joined the media combat as an Arabic speaker. And I'm in the media, in Al Jazeera in Arabic, in Al Arabiya in Arabic, in BBC Arabic, and the American Al Hurra in Arabic, and radio stations in Arabic, and France 24 in Arabic. And here the irony is a very, very hard to be an Israeli in Arab media, because they actually invite me to abuse me on air. And I know it very well, because that's what they do. Okay, in my case, the punching bag punches back sometimes when I can. So, and when you are in a war, you are a war. And à la guerre comme à la guerre means at a war like in a war, and you fight either in the army or in the media, because this is the same war, and this is national security. Because if we lose the war in the media, we lose the whole thing, because the media actually shapes people's mind, shapes the phone calls which people call their congressman and their senator, and the media actually, at the end of the day, operates the world. And this is why what Tom Trento is doing is so important, by addressing the people through his TV channel in the internet, because this actually gives the people the right way how to think, the right information. You know, the struggle today is not between right and left. It is between the right and the wrong. And Tom shows what is the right in his channel. And this is why I'm honored to appear in his channel, I think so far twice or thrice. And I'm proud of it. And this is the national security. It starts in the media, it starts with the children, it starts with education, what message we send to our kids, because without these messages, and without this education, and without making the children in the first place, and without showing them by our behavior, not in theory, our behavior is dedicated to the society, dedicated to the state, dedicated to the culture which we represent, what message do we send to the kids? Sit aside with your iPhone and that's the whole world? And unfortunately, this is too much. When I just came back from the States like a month ago after spending two months in the States, that's what I see. People are ignorant, especially the kids. If you take a globe and you go to the street and ask the people, where is Europe? Put your finger on the Europe in the street of Florida, wherever you go. How many kids how many youngsters, young adults will know where Europe is if it doesn't say Europe on the globe? Never mind the Middle East or Iraq, where 4,500 Americans fell in order to bring democracy to. It's okay, leave it. It's okay. In order to bring democracy to Iraq, which caused what it caused, and now Americans are afraid to go anywhere in the Middle East, even to Iran, which is the real problem, not Iraq. And actually, this is what brings us to the region after going around about culture, because bringing children to the world, it's a matter of culture. Educating them, matter of culture. What to do with their lives is a matter of culture. And this is definitely what we want to defend. by national security. Okay, now what is happening in the world, in my view? We are now in front of two waves of problems. One is the immigration from the Islamic countries to the West, and one, what happens here in the Middle East, or the wider Middle East. And these two things are interconnected. First of all, the immigration. Immigration, in Western view, is not the first choice which a youngster will choose. If his home place, I'm not talking about the home of the parents, I'm talking about the environment where he grew up, town, city, state in the States, more or less. If this place where he was born, where he is familiar with the language, with the customs, with the way of living, if this place provides a house, a spouse, a school, and a profession where to work, usually people will stay to live where they were born. Because these are the four components of our life at the end of the day. Whom we marry, where we live, what we do in order to make living after we finished our school. So if these four components, school, work, house, and a spouse, are provided where we were born, we will not emigrate to other countries. Why should we emigrate? Everything, or most of the things, or the important things which we need, are here. Only when we have to go to study something somewhere else, we'll go to study, or to live if we cannot afford the housing, or we found a spouse who wants to live in France. Okay? So, if everything is in our environment, we will remain usually, because immigration is the second best. In Islamic view, immigration is viewed a totally different way. Immigration is the first choice, not the second. Why? They learn everything from the president of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. He, in his hometown in Mecca, when he was born more or less in the year of 570, he was persecuted, he was chased, he was almost murdered 3 or 4 times, and the number of followers, Muslims, who followed him was not big, was some dozens, no more. Means there is no, as we say in Harvard Heritage, there is no prophet in his hometown. Because everybody knows him, how he behaved when he was a boy, and he cannot prophesy to people in his hometown. People know him already. So he emigrated to Medina in the year of 622, and there he became he became a judge, he became the governor of the city, and became the ruler of the city, he became a statesman, a ruler of Medina and the vicinities of Medina. Now, look at this. We Jews count history according to what we believe the creation, which we believe was 5,700 and so forth years. Means the creation for us is the Archimedes point when history started, the creation. Christians count history since Jesus Christ was what? No, he was born on 25th of December, but you start in January 1st. What happened in January 1st? Somebody was born in 25th of December, this is his first day, right? 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31st, 1st of January was his 8th day. Bris means when he was circumcised. Why? Because this is the most important, when he became a Jew. Okay, full Jew. This is the day where, according to Christianity, history can start. Because this is more important than the birth. Okay? Good. When do Muslims start their history? Not when Muhammad was born, not when even he started to have the revelation, more or less in the year of 610, but in the year when he emigrated from Mecca to Medina in the 622. This is the beginning. This is the Archimedes point when history can start. Means the immigration was more important than his birth, more important than his circumcision, if he was circumcised, more important than even the beginning of his prophecy, more important than the revelation of the whole religion. The immigration was much more important. Means, in their view, immigration is the most important event which happened in Muhammad's life. Otherwise, they would start it in a different event. Why? Because the immigration actually took him out from a place which he could not become anything to a place which turned him into a dictator, into an emperor, into a statesman, and into somebody who occupied later, his followers occupied the whole known world of those days, from Indonesia in the east all the way to Morocco in the west, or to Spain in the west. This is why the immigration for them is viewed as the most important thing which a man can do during his life, because if he does it, it immigrates, he actually follows the footsteps of the Prophet Muhammad. If he stays at home, what can happen at home? He will not have good influence on others, because nobody can be a prophet in his hometown, as happened with Prophet Muhammad. And since he was infallible, since he was guided by Allah, and since he was the role model for all the Muslims in the world, wherever they live and whenever they live, this is what they should do. To emigrate in order to export Islam from the place which they came from to the new place which will they immigrate to. And this is a totally different view to immigration than the Western way how to look at it. And it has the proofs. First of all, they say it. And I think that there are some things which we should take them on face value. Second thing is that you might know there is a great writer, a lady named Bat Yaor, a pen name Bat Yaor. Her name is Giselle Littman, a Jewish lady who lives in Switzerland until this very day. And she wrote a magnificent book, Eurabia, means how Europe becomes an Arab country. Already in the 60s and more or less in the 70s, Arab countries made agreements with European countries. It started with agreements about exporting of oil. But in every agreement about oil, there was a clause which said that you, means France, Austria, Italy, whatever, you will give every year such and such number of visas to Arabs to emigrate to your country. What is the connection between oil production or oil export to immigration? This is one question. Another question is, excuse me, you are having an agreement with another country that this country will accept your citizens? Does America have any agreement with any country in the world in condition that that country will allow American citizens to emigrate to this country? What kind of agreements are these? Means, and the Europeans succumbed to this demand in order to have oil. So they agreed, they were forced to give it was not the first, but definitely a wave of immigration by buying oil. You can read about all these agreements in this book, Eurabia, by Bat Yaor, how these European countries were forced to accept immigration from the Middle East as a condition to oil, to getting oil. You want our oil, you take our people. Now, the deep motivation, the motivation as well in order to ease the unemployment. Okay, this was the overt reason. But the real reason, the covered reason, was to export Islam. Because after those people came to these countries with visa, means not as illegal, but as legal immigrants, They have a status. They can start living there, getting citizenship in a while, and opening the new colony, if you want, of Islam on the European soil. This is how it started, and this was pushed by those countries, and they knew exactly what they are doing. Not only they send people, they also send money. Since now they have much money because of the oil, Saudi Arabia sent money in order to build mosques, in order to build libraries of Islamic literature, in order to teach their kids Islam, and in order to go in the streets and disseminate Islam to other Europeans who were born as not Muslims, and to convert them to Islam. And unfortunately, because of the education in some states in Europe, when kids are growing up valueless, in an emptiness of what to do with themselves and what no, all of a sudden they see a community, flourishing community, very nice. Everybody hugs each other, everybody prays, and everybody praises Allah and everything. And they are so nice, so cute, so peaceful. So why not joining them? And unfortunately, you can see definitely how kids who are not informed, who are falling from houses which are not functioning sometimes, or education system which does not know how to attract them with Western values and so forth, they find their cultural refuge in the mosque. And a friend brings his friend. It's much more obvious when it comes to girls. You know, some girls, start their active life with boys when they are 13, 14, 15. You know, the women's sleep of the 70s, Viva la Pelula. You remember them? Long live the pill. Viva la Pelula, it's in Italian. And, all this permissiveness which came to Europe during the 70s and the 80s. And, not every girl likes it. After some years, she gets fed up with this. And now she looks for something else which will keep her aside, which boys will not run after her every evening. And here she finds the Islamic community where girls are left alone, means left alone intact until the wedding. Okay? And they like it. Because girls there are not constant targets for the boys. And after spending some years running from bed to bed, they start to love this idea of being left alone until I'm getting married. Why not going to this community, which honors me much more than those thugs in the pubs who compete, who will drag me to bed in the first night? Okay, this is what happens in societies which are inflicted by permissiveness. And this is very attractive for some girls to convert to Islam. When they start going with a hijab, and they tell everybody how nice it is in Islam, how free they feel because nobody tries to start up with them, and all these things, it is attractive for those kids who live in emptiness, which the Western societies actually gave them. So, little by little, immigration was not only by bringing people to the West, it is by bringing the Islam as an idea into the West, to a degree that what we see today is the outcome, that people today convert to Islam and go to the jihad fields in Syria and Iraq, to the Islamic State, to that degree. And it's not new. We have already the shoe bomber, Richard Reed, already in 2004, 5, when he was caught, I think, trying to knock down an airliner. And he was born Richard Reed. Who can profile him, even if people were profiling? Okay, so this is what happens when people convert to Islam, because they find in Islam something valuable, unlike the societies, the valueless societies which they grow up in. Why not converting to Islam? A culture which has many values, worshipping the Allah and keeping away between boys and girls until the wedding. Oh, great! Why not going to this? Looks much more value, full of value compared to Western societies. Why not? Okay, this is where national security starts. This is why education is integral part of national security. Without the education, you don't have a society to take care of national security. This is immigration. And what you see today in Europe is actually what a friend of mine, a colleague of mine, he ran away from Algeria in the 80s. And he became a lecturer in one of the Sorbonne universities. And recently, today he's already an emeritus, means he's in pension. But he told me like a year ago that he's looking for another place. He cannot live in France anymore. I said, why? So he said, those Algerians, he ran away from Algeria. Those Algerians are not moving from Algeria to France. They are moving Algeria to France. And this is what happens there, because they do not integrate. Many do, but many do not. And I have nothing against those who do. You know, France had a minister of justice, a lady named Rashida Dati in the days of Sarkozy. And she was a single woman. One day she appears pregnant. As a minister, she was totally French, to a degree that she had no problem getting pregnant, although she was not married. Okay, I have nothing against those Muslims who emigrate to the West in order to become Westerners by their culture. The problem is with those, majority or minority I didn't count, but those who come to the West in order to preserve their culture in a way that they will never dissolve into those societies and will never become French or Germans or Italians or Belgians and so forth. And even Angela Merkel a few years ago admitted the multiculturalism cannot work. Means you cannot allow, or what happens is, the disaster of Germany is that Germany has a different culture inside Germany, which is not German. And this is a very big problem in Germany today. This is what you see today, the new organization, Pegida, who are demos, and they are not far right, they are not KKK-like people. They are not Nazis, they just want to preserve their culture, nothing more. What is wrong with this? And they are not from the far right, they are from the center to the right. Okay, where is the problem? But they see how their society is being different or becomes different, and their country leaves them. They were born in Germany, and now Germany doesn't look like Germany at all, or goes or shifts to become something else. The same thing in France, same thing in Spain. I'm not talking about terrorism. I'm not talking about violence. I'm talking about change of the culture. What is the influence of this changing of the culture on the national security? You know what? The Russian army today, 40 or even more percent of the soldiers in the Russian army are Muslims. Chechens, Tataris, Pamiris, and many other groups, Islamic groups, which live in the Russian Federation. Okay? And this is a very big problem because they know that there is a limit to what they can do against Islamic countries. What if they have a problem with Iran, which will pose a danger on Iran? Are they sure that all these soldiers will be loyal and not defect and not jeopardize or not act against any action of Russia against any enemy who might be in the Islamic world? This is a very big problem when 40% of your army are people who you don't trust. And this is a matter of national security. And so this is something which we all should bear in mind. And you know what? I'm not sure that America is immune when it comes to immigration. Let me show you something. Let me show you some things which I saw in America. In the States, there is a guy named David Yerushalmi. David Yerushalmi is a lawyer, lives in New York, and And I authored a whole article with him about Sharia and violence in American mosques. And we collected literature from American mosques. This is a book which we found in some mosques. 40 hadith on jihad. This is in English. Hadith means oral tradition. Jihad against whom? Against the Martians? Okay? And this is in English. So, and this is disseminated in America, inside America. Just look at the contents, table of contents of this book. Look at number 10. Monetary jihad means jihad doesn't necessarily have to be with a rifle. It can be with your money. You can donate your money to all kinds of organizations, and especially if they have 501c3 tax deductible donation, and all kinds of organizations which represent Hamas and others. And this is, yes, this is what you can do. And look at number 17. War is a deception. Means you can tell the guys in America, never mind, we are peaceful, we are nice, we are good, we are not, but actually, this is part of the jihad, to make face as if you are peaceful. Now, I'm not saying that every Muslim who comes to the States is a vicious jihadist who just makes face. But we have to be very, very well aware of it and to open our eyes and especially our ears to see and to hear what they say. Only recently, the mayor of New York, de Blasio, announced that they are taking all the surveillance devices from the mosques because it's not nice to listen to what happens in those mosques. Okay? Excuse me? This is how you make sure that this is how you provide national security? By shutting the ears and the eyes in order to look. I'm not saying that every one of them, I'm the last to say that everyone was a jihadist. But there are some jihadists. Only recently, some people in Minnesota were caught preparing to go to the Islamic State. The Fort Hood massacre was perpetrated by a Martian. Okay, there are enclaves, there are problems which have to be found. And if you don't let the intelligence work by surveillance and by all kinds of other methods, you're going to lose it. Or one day it will blow up in your face. And this is one of the books which we found disseminated for free. Yes, Tom?
Yeah, this is so important. Dr. Kedar and David Yerushalami, a good friend of ours, this was a multi-year study. They sent undercover people into 100 mosques all around the United States, and the people who went undercover were tasked with looking at jihad metrics, the way the people dressed, the material that was in there, and Kedar and Yerushalami put this massive study together that's been peer-reviewed and established definitively that 80 to 85% of the 2,000 mosques in the United States of America are jihad mosques working for the overthrow of the United States of America. And we used this material that these guys did about 5 years ago, I guess you could study. This is an amazing study that has rocked the FBI and all our intelligence agencies in the United States.
Now, another booklet which we collected in the New York area is this. This is the title. What should you do if you are arrested or framed by the racist, fascist criminal police or the racist, fascist criminal FBI? By Dr. El-Hajj Idris A. Muhammad, published by the El Amin Publishers, New York City. Okay? What should you do? Okay? Means how to resist in interrogation and investigations in order not to give in your friends, your what you are going to do, and all these things. Okay? This is how they accept the American entity and the American environment and how to become Americans by disseminating such a book, which is disseminated for free in these mosques, taking advantage of the freedom of speech, freedom of expression, which is the cornerstone of the American democracy. And now, as part of the national security, America should start to think whether it's a democracy which protects its people or a democracy on a suicide track. Because this is a democracy on a suicide track. If you allow elements who do not believe in democracy at all, do not believe in democracy, to take advantage of the democratic devices like freedom of speech in order to disseminate these kind of books, and you have many other books, in order to undermine the American national security, something is wrong in the Kingdom of Denmark. Something doesn't work. And a democracy has to make a decision whether this is a democracy which protects itself from people who do not believe in democracy, or a democracy which is marching proudly on a suicide track. And this is a decision which should be made. You cannot shut your eyes and stick your heads in the sand in order to be nice, democratic, even-handed, cute, and whatever you like. And being taken, and other people take advantage of the fact that America is so nice country, so nice people, so kind, so accepting, and what will happen to this society, I have no idea. But this is what happens now. And in Florida, of course, I myself took a picture of a road sign in I-95. Just look at this. Muhammad, peace be upon him, mercy to mankind. This is called dawah, proselytization, to convince people. How many millions of people are watching this road sign on I-95, the busiest highway in Florida? It was between Hollywood and Boca, I think, somewhere. This is from another picture of this. And of course this one, which is the best. What do Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad have in common? Islam.
Abraham was around during this time.
You cannot disrupt their theories with facts. Okay? Never mind what the maneuver they do in order to Islamize Jesus Christ and Abraham and Moses, never mind. But this is what they believe. And Tom, how many demonstrations were in Florida against this road sign? How many people were outraged about this? How many letters to the editor were written about this? How many phone calls to the senator, to the congressman about this thing? No, because Americans look at this. Okay, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and they are encouraged to continue because nobody says anything about this. Nobody demonstrates, nobody has anything against this. So I think people have to be very bold in order to put such a sign.
What do we call that 800?
The what? Call them. It's 8770. It's toll free. You probably get a recording which give you a whole sermon about why Islam. Okay, but this is the way, the American way, how to disseminate ideas that Islam is peace, mercy for mankind. Mercy, look at Iraq, look at Syria, look at how we behead each other. Mercy to mankind. Not to mention how they treat their women. Mercy to mankind. Okay? And this immigrates to the United States. How many kids get it on face value and start to believe this is true? of our kids? How did we immune our children not to fall in this trap? Do we? Okay? This is the question of national security. So this is about immigration. And there is much to say about this kind of immigration. The second component of what happens here in the Middle East, and this is the worst thing, because this is imminent problem and is an immediate problem. Because all these things are slow problems. Like, people are slowly but surely sinking into the problem. But what happens today in the Middle East is much faster. And this is the fatigue of the West in the front of the most dangerous entity in the world, which is Iran. The Islamic State, which frightens everybody because it beheaded some Americans, actually took the scene. And everybody was frightened because of this. Everybody got shocked because of they dared to slaughter some Americans in front of the cameras. And Iran was forgotten. Mahmoud Ahmadinejad was the president of Iraq for 8 years. He has a nickname in Persian, Marde Hezare Gelule. This is in Persian. It means in English, the man with 1,000 bullets. What? How can you carry 1,000 bullets? This man had 2 years of his life do not appear in his biography. Between 1980 and 1981, 2 years, which he served in the court system of Ayatollah named Khalkhali. Khalkhali was the judge of the people who served at the Shah administration. His courts actually were the passage for around 25,000 people who were serving in the administration of the Shah until 1979, until the revolution. They came to his courts, and everyone had his day in court, which took something between 1 minute and 2 minutes, which were dedicated to make sure that he is what he is. They didn't really look at what he did and what he did not. Once they made sure that he is who he is, means served for the Shah, the next thing he was taken to be hung up. There was a man whose mission was to go to everyone who was hung up after he stopped moving, being hung up on the rope, and to give one shot in his head. He had a box with 1,000, maybe less, bullets. This was Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. He is a youngster. This is what he did for 2 years. Going and shooting in the head everyone who was hung up. Apparently they were already dead. But he was making sure that they are all dead before they are being taken off from the rope in order to be buried. See me? Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. So his nickname was the man with 1,000 bullets, because he had a big box with 1,000 bullets in order to shoot those people in the head. So, and you know what? I know it. And I'm not the only one who knows it. Many in the world know it, because the Iranians all know it. And I hope that there are some intelligence organizations which know what I know, and if not, they are in a big problem. People cooperated with him, people sat with him, people negotiated with him. He was accepted in the United Nations, he was speaking in the United Nations, he was speaking everywhere. He got a visa to America. Although many people, especially those who should know, knew exactly what he was doing in these 2 years, 1980, 1981. There are some rumors, I'm not sure that they are accurate, that he actually took part in the assault on the American embassy, in which the American diplomats who were working under, and they were immune by diplomatic immunity, They were caught by the Iranians and were kept for 444 days after the revolution, until the day when Ronald Reagan was sworn into presidency. The minute that he raised his hand, pledging allegiance to the country, to the constitution, the airplane which carried those people left the Iranian airspace. Why? Because they were afraid of him. Because he said, if you don't let those kids out, I'm going to flatten you. And they were afraid that he is standing behind what he was saying. So they were afraid of him. Means, in the Middle East, there are two kinds of threat. There is a threat, and there is a credible threat. A threat, nobody believes you, because you air out threats. When you say something which is a credible threat, when they believe you, they start taking you seriously. And this is the Middle East. It's not America, and it's not Europe. And here only a threat, a credible threat, can work, nothing else. And understanding it is part of national security, because when you try to shape other countries like Iraq, or to understand other countries like Iraq, when you look at them through American lenses and through the American culture, you fail in the first minute, because they think in a different way, they think in different method, their scale of values is different, their scale of priorities is different, and if you try to understand them through your culture, you cannot continue with this, because you make mistakes, big mistakes. And this is the problem in the American intelligence society, intelligence organizations. Very few people there speak Arabic. Even fewer speak Persian. Very few of them are exposed to really what being said and written in Arabic and Persian societies. And they all live out of translations. And as you know, always something falls in translation. And you know what? Let me ask you a very easy question. Would any of you accept any research about the American society done by somebody who cannot read English, doesn't understand English, cannot read the English, the American newspapers, books, poetry, history, or what people say in the street or in the political arenas? Totally ignorant about English, doesn't have English at all. Can he conduct any research about the American society? Maybe about American squirrels or dogs or something like this, which doesn't involve with English, or minerals in America, maybe that. But not about people. If you have any research about people, you have to read what they write and to listen what they say. Otherwise, you cannot touch the raw material. So, and unfortunately, people in the American academic institutions, which breed people to politics, to media, and to the intelligence, and back to the academia as well, and they rarely speak Arabic or English. Even those who write books and articles about the Middle East, how can they understand the Middle East if they don't have Arabic and or Persian and or Turkish or Pashto or Urdu, the languages of Pakistan and Afghanistan, or parts of those countries? How can you understand those people? And this is the reason why people make mistakes in places like Iraq, in Afghanistan, and so on. And this is part of the fact that the national security is in danger, because those who are in charge of the national security very rarely know the languages of those societies which pose danger to the national security. So what people do, they take Arabs in order to serve in the NSA and other things. And you know what? Somebody in Denver once, I met a lawyer in Denver, in Colorado. He said, well, he was Jewish. He thinks about moving to Israel. So what happened? So I said, I got sick of America. Why? He was working for the Attorney General of Colorado, of the state Attorney General. And he was in charge of the files of incitement And you understand what incitement means. And they were sending questions to the police to interrogate people and to come back to the prosecution with the results of the investigations. Once he started feeling that questions are not answered, so he started sniffing around, and he found that those in the police who are in charge of interrogation about incitement, one's name is Muhammad and another's name is Mahmoud. And they are in charge of interrogations about incitement against America within those societies. So he went to his boss, to the Attorney General, and he said, what is this? What do you expect them? To give me the good question, to conduct real investigations? What do you expect them? To give me the good answers to put these people in jail? Means those were they invested? Forget it. So the Attorney General says, we cannot profile people. We cannot, they need to make living. We cannot tell the police whom to use for interrogation. They are in the interrogation because they know Arabic. Okay, they don't have anybody else who knows Arabic. So in the same minute, he put his keys on the table, on the desk, and then left. He says, if you want to conduct such a prosecution, which you don't have even the investigators, which you can rely on, so thank you very much. And he resigned at the same minute. Okay? And this is a matter of national security. In the hands of whom? Okay? Something doesn't work. Okay? So this is, but when I'm talking about the Middle East, it's something totally different. Now, today we have the Iranians. And unfortunately, there are people in the States who are on the march for a while already to appease the Iranians in order to turn them into pussycats. And they don't understand even the minimum about the Iranians, again, because they don't read what the Iranians themselves write. Let me just show you a little example. This is a pamphlet which was caught in 2006 in southern Lebanon. My son brought it to me. This is a weekly sermon, a weekly page produced by Hezbollah. Hezbollah, as you know, is the Lebanese long hand of the Iranians. And they quote Khamenei here in this short quotation which they give him. Now, he says it clearly, as clear as it could be. The strategic depth of our Iranian people extends to Palestine, to North Africa, to the Middle East, to Central Asia, and to the Indian subcontinent. The strategic depth of Iran. Excuse me? When did the North Africans volunteer to be your strategic depth? When did the people in the Middle East here volunteer to be your strategic depth? Or in the Indian subcontinent, they are all, and they are viewed as the Iranian strategic depth, just like I will start disseminating checks in the market, and I tell the merchant, the dealers, hey, Tom Trento's bank account is my strategic depth. Okay, I volunteer Tom Trento's bank account to be my strategic depth, and here I start buying the whole world. Okay,
That was my bank account.
Okay. So this is exactly the same thing. Now, the question is, what is he talking about? And again, we have to go to the history. This is the map of the ancient Persian Empire, which was until the 6th century. The Muslims actually toppled it. If you look at the geography of this empire, you can see North Africa, the Middle East, of course, Iran is here. And it goes all the way to the Indian subcontinent. Okay? Means that Khamenei actually talks about retrieving or reviving the ancient Persian Empire by taking over the whole region. This is what he's talking about. And this is a pure quotation, and we should take him on face value. Now, people in the States apparently heard it, and they read it. Since I have this document, I believe that others have it as well. They say, okay, what those Iranians want? They want the Middle East? Okay, let's give them the Middle East. Why not? Let's allow them have nuclear weapons. Let's have them regional hegemony. If the Saudis are afraid of them, who cares about the Saudis? The Saudis are a family. They can be here, they can be where, they can take all the money and run away from Saudi Arabia. So the Iranians will take Saudi Arabia as well. Why not? And if they took already Iraq, and as you know, Iran today controls some countries. The Middle East, as I showed you, here it is. Iran already controls Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, here, Lebanon, and now Yemen. So actually, it is a grip around Saudi Arabia. Iran is here. Already in the north, they have a continuum all the way to the Mediterranean Sea, through Iraq and Syria and Lebanon if they need. And from the south, they go now to Yemen, to take Yemen over with the Houthis, in order to crack Saudi Arabia in the middle. Why not? After all, Saudi Arabia is an oppressive country which oppresses the Shiites in the east, because the Shiites are living here. Bahrain is anyway Shi'i, because they are Persians. And there are many Persians also in the Gulf Emirates. So let Iran have the whole Middle East. Why not? They will be nice. They will have whatever they like, because they are talking about retrieving or reviving the ancient Persian Empire. And the Sunnis can have North Africa, because here, Egypt, Libya, Algeria, Tunisia, Morocco, there are no Shiites. So this will be the Sunni Islamic world. This will be the Shi'i Iraqi world. And Israel is in between. If Israel survives, let them survive. If not, who cares? They can go back to Poland, to Germany, to Morocco, wherever they came from. They can go away. And I'm afraid that there are people in Washington, D.C., that this is their plan. Because too many dots, if you combine those dots, you find that this is actually what they want. That's why they did nothing against Assad, who gassed his people in spite of the red lines, which became pink lines, which became white lines, and no lines at all, as we remember with the chemical weapons. This is why, definitely, the Shi'i expansion towards Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon in the north, and Yemen in the south, definitely is viewed by some people as a positive development. However, we cannot expose it, so we make face as if we will give some intelligence to the Saudis, some intelligence to the Yemenites, to the others. We'll play the game as if we are behind them. We'll give them also weapons and some ammunition as well. But the major plan actually is to have whatever to the east from Israel under the Iranian hegemony, because this will appease the Iranians, because they want to have a regional hegemony in order to be a regional superpower. While the west from Israel, while Egypt and Libya and all the way in North America, where there are no Shiites, can be under the Sunnis, and they will be also satisfied with this. And with this division between the Shi'i side of Islam, which will be here, and the Sunni side of Islam, which will be here, peace will come to the world, because they will not be within each other. Israel will be dividing them, because they cannot, because, see, this is the sea and this is the Elat, how do you say, Mifratz Elat? The Gulf of Elat. And actually Israel divides the Arab world between, or the Islamic world between the East and the West. The East can be Shiite, the West can be Sunni, and peace will come to the world. And, okay, so this is, I'm afraid that this is the plan. Because too many dots, which if we combine them properly, lead to possibly this, and this is a major plan. Meanwhile, we can deceive some people in the way by telling them, no, we are behind you. You know, the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Don't worry, we are behind you. One of Disney's first movies. They are shaking and shivering while she is climbing the ladder to the upper floor, and they are, so we are behind you. Okay, we are behind you. And leading from the back seat, as some people think. So this is, I'm afraid, the geostrategic developments of the last, and now everybody, there are some people who would let Iran run forward without sanctions to develop their nuclear weapons, and they are already took half of the Middle East by taking Iraq and Syria and Lebanon and Yemen today without the nuclear weapon. What will happen when they will have nuclear weapons? Okay, so definitely they will be much more powerful, and people will be much more afraid to mess with them. And this is the big mistake today, really today, of the signing of any agreement with them. The only way how to deal with them, I actually published it years ago, it was published in the Jerusalem Post, was, and still is, and it's not too late, a message should be sent to them as follows. Dear Iranians, we understand you. We now know everything about you. We don't believe not even one word which you say, because you deceived us and you cheated us time and again to the last 20 years of negotiations. Your game is over and your time is over as well. You have exactly a week, 1 week from today, to dismantle all your nuclear facilities, to ship them out from Iran to us. You have exactly a week, not even 1 minute more. Read our lips. In 1 week from today, from now, we start flattening you. We will not leave a brick on a brick in your country. We will destroy everything. We are around you with all our armies, air forces, and naval forces. We are already warming the engines and take us seriously. Now, the more credible this threat is, the less are the chances that you have to use it. Because this is how the Middle East works. Once they think that you just talk, they don't take you seriously. But once they think that you are serious, here you mean business. And they cannot fool you around. They are not suicidal as society. They are not suicidal as a country. They are not suicidal as a state and as a regime. They would send some people to blow themselves, either in American embassies, as happened in 1983, or the Marines headquarters, also as happened already here and there, within embassies and others, as they did in many other places. Yes, they will send jihadists to perform suicide attacks. But as a society, as a country, as a state, as a system, they are not suicidal. And if they understand that the price of their nuclear facility is a total destruction, this is when they will raise a white flag and give up on their nuclear facilities. This is the only way to convince them to stop their nuclear program. Alternatively, means, if not, we should start getting used to the idea that Iran is nuclear. So far, they have submarines, and they know, and they already tested, how to launch missiles from submarines. The only third component which they need is a nuclear warhead. They don't even need missiles which can reach America. They can just send a submarine which will not broadcast anything, which will be in the Atlantic somewhere in front of Florida or New York or whatever, and starts dictating their policies on the world from under the seas. And if they feel that they are attacked, they will launch whatever they have and devastate New York, Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, Philadelphia, and maybe other cities as well. So, and this is what they can do already. Already. And the only thing which they still need, is this nuclear weapons, which will be brought to those submarines, to the missiles, which they know already how to launch from missiles. So they don't need much in order to control the world as they wish. And they are not willing even to listen to Americans, to Europeans, and to others. Why? And again, I go to what they publish about themselves. Look at this. They, once in a while, bring out all kinds of documents which actually show how they think. This is the first page or the front page of a 6-page folder, which is the short biography of Khomeini, the founder of the revolution, the Iranian revolution. I'm not saying Islamic because I doubt if they are Muslims. This is his biography, short biography. Now look at this. In the colors are not accurate. This is much lighter, a light blue. A light comes from the light blue environment, which is the sky, and enlightens Khomeini's head, eyes, mouth, chest, and hands. Means that the divine light enlightens his thoughts, his views, his words, his feelings, and ultimately his deeds. According to their discourse, he and his followers are infallible. They are in the level of a prophet. They cannot make any mistake. If they decide to do something, nobody in the world can tell them, do this or don't do that. So who are those American swine eaters or the European wine drinkers to tell him or his followers what to do and what not to do? If they decide that they should have a nuclear program, who are those infidels to tell us, the believers, the true believers, the Shia true believers, what to do and not to do? The Sunnis are not real believers, according to their view. And they actually show exactly how they revere this man as a prophet. And actually they claim that he is ma'soom, means infallible. And this is Khomeini, the The biography is called Sutur Nur, means the lines of light. Lines of light. You can see here the lines of light. Another good way how they show themselves. Now this is Khamenei, today's supreme leader. He has, according to this image which they show, he has some kind of an encounter with somebody who is made of light, or the divine light. Who is this one? This is the hidden Imam. They believe that the Imam number 12, means the descendant number 12 of Ali bin Abi Talib, the founder of the Shia, disappeared sometime in the 10th century. He is still alive. He is still alive, and he hides in a cave somewhere in Central Asia. And one day he will appear to mankind, rectify the whole world, and convince by his appearance all the world to convert to Islam and to convert from Islam to the Shia Islam, and peace and tranquility will come to the entire world. And this is the hidden Imam, more or less the Messiah belief of Judaism and Christianity. Khamenei, he has a connection with him. He gets the light from him, the wisdom, the decisions from this man, from this hidden Imam, because he also is infallible and he gets the light straight from this source of the light in the world. So again, who are these infidels in America or in Europe to tell us what to develop and what not to develop? Who gave them the permission to talk to us? So we can make face as if we negotiate. We can do, some things here, some things there, in order to cover our real intentions under the idea of taqiyya, means how to deceive the others, which is one of the most profound components of their culture, and we can get along with this. And now we have an American president, an American administration who totally do not understand us, and they will give us a free check to go forward with our nuclear weapon, with our military nuclear program, because they want to reach an agreement in any price. And we proved already that we are not afraid to pay the price for suffering, as we did under the sanctions. And then they are weak, they are fatigued, they gave up on Iraq, they gave up on Afghanistan, they will never mess with us. And we have a proof, the Iranians have a proof. The American troops in Iraq, since between 2003 and 2010, when they got out of Iraq, the Americans had all the proofs needed to take Iran and to devastate Iran totally, because of the participation of Iran in the insurgency in Iraq. Iranians were caught in Iraq, means those who came to train Iraqis. Americans caught Iranians in Iraq. Weapons which came from Iran were caught in Iraq. Intelligence about the Iranian interventions in Iraq were intercepted on right and left and center, and every possible intelligence or information which Americans needed in order to prove that Iran is deeply involved in the insurgency in Iraq was provided. In my assessment, at least half of the American soldiers, of the 4,500 American soldiers who died, were killed in Iraq, were killed either directly or indirectly by Iran. At least 2,500 of the 4,500. How many were injured? How many were psychologically maimed by Iran? You know how many those veterans are committing suicide in the United States because of what they faced in Iraq? And Iran was in charge of it, at least partially. And the Americans had all the evidence needed to devastate Iran because of anything against them. So now they feel that they can do whatever they like. And they knew exactly what the Americans know about the Iranian intervention in, or part in the Iraqi insurgency. So, if America doesn't do anything, if at least 2,000 American soldiers being killed because of us Iranians, we can do whatever we like. And this is why they are more than convinced that they will be allowed to do whatever they like, whenever they like, about their nuclear program. And the only thing is to formulate the documents. So they push here, they pull there. End of the day, nobody will do anything against them, just like nobody did anything against them because of their intervention in Iraq. They have all the proof that the Americans will not do anything. And here, just let me remind you, until 2009, it was not Obama in power. 5 years, it was George W. Bush. So it's not a matter of only the Democrats who succumbed to the Iranians. It was already before them. Explanation, I don't have any. But we cannot deny this fact. And this is something which we remember. So something wrong happened in America, that the national security, in my view, of America, let alone Israel, is in danger. Because of the immigration, because of the education, because of birth rate, and finally, because of what happens in the Middle East. Questions, and I'll try to answer. So.